gentlemen, welcome to another beautiful morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of The Light. This is Innocent, your host, always, every morning, here on DF.TV. Today we are going to have a very different topic, a different discussion, and something totally different. Our discussion today will be a different, and we're taking a different dimension altogether. For over the years, our societies have suffered mainly three different social and psychological problems. And if I can list them down, no parent, no one in his right senses would really enjoy and admire his or her child to experience or be victims of the following things I'm about to read out. There are about 28 of them. And we have been moving in circles over the years with these 28 things. And there could be more that I may have not included in my list. And one of the things on my list is high youth unemployment. That is point number one. Number two, we have single teenage motherhood. Number three, we have domestic violence. Talk about divorce, street children at number 5. Number 6, we have rape, defilement. Number 7, drug and substance abuse. Number 8. Number 9, we have prostitution. Number 10, let's look at premature death due to abortion. Let's look at suicide, drug addiction, sexual addictions, depression, poverty. Number 16, there is murder, robbery. We are looking at corruption at a national level or continental level. Let's talk about wars, chronic diseases. Let's talk of the recent one, COVID-19. Let's talk about things to do with climate change, racism, with the recent event that took place in the United States. Let's talk about tribalism, nepotism, child marriage, forced marriages. We have homosexuality and lesbianism at number 28. And over the years, we have come out with different methods, different approach to handle the problems that are happening in the societies that we live in. We have thought and we have derived different systems and methods to solve the problems. Over the years, we have thought that the change of government would bring the changes that we need, would be the solution to the problems that we are going through. And we have changed governments from governments. Every political figure thinks he has the solution to the problems that we go through as nations, as the continent, as societies. Every political leader comes in from the grassroots to the topmost part. They come with promises. They come with all these things promising us they have the change, they have the solution to these problems. But we see these things instead increasing and going high over the years. We thought that the problems to these things were actually ignorance. We thought people were ignorant of certain things. So we brought in formal education and personal development programs to help people live according to the standard that they ought to live. Over the years we have studied, and if we are to say our generation has been the generation that has been the most learned generation. we have learned. It's the generation that has registered high increase in things to do with the degrees, with the masters, with the PhDs we have in our generation. And you can see in the increase in technology and all these kind of things, the development that's happening in our generation. So at the end of the day, we are embracing these methods that humanity has come out with. Sometimes we have thought that the solutions to these social injustices and psychological problems, maybe demonstration and protest would bring a change that we need, would bring the solutions that we need. And we have protested, we have demonstrated, we have been arrested, we have been beaten, and at the end of the day, actually the protest we're doing caused more harm than good. We thought maybe the problem was poverty. We have started up businesses, we have innovated, the entrepreneurs have come up with different ideas, different methods to ensure that people are stable financially. But the more they start to acquire the wealth and the finances, it's the more actually they want more, and they want to, at the end they cause more harm to society because of the greed they have over finances. We have thought maybe the establishment of churches would be something great that would make a difference in our society. Many churches have come up, especially in the African setting. We have seen churches coming up on a daily basis. They are rising every day, which is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. But the problem is most churches are not doing exactly what they are designed to do. And that is why we continue to see these problems continue in the societies that we live in. So what could be the solution to the problem? We have thought maybe the problems that are happening, we need to empower our female counterparts. We move with what they call the girl-child empowerment. We have moved, we have caused that movement, we have raised that awareness, we have come out with campaigns, people have come out with projects to ensure that the girl child are empowered and they are lifted. And these things come and go. And we continue to see these things increasing. But my question is, how can you empower the other part of humanity, the feminine part of humanity, and want to neglect the masculine part of humanity? You are saying we need more of the girl-child empowerment. We need more of girls to be empowered, to be educated, to be equipped. And we forget to embrace the boy child. This is something that I don't want to call it I don't want to make it sound like it's demonic. But it is the mistake the world is making is to try to empower the girl child separate from the boy child. Because a girl who is going to suffer from teenage pregnancy did not rape herself, did not defile herself. Girls cannot defile fellow girls. The person who is going to defile this girl is the masculine energy. So if we are focusing and we say we are empowering the girl child, what in particular are we doing? Are we solving a problem, or we are contributing to the problem? Are we being realistic, or we are being dreamers? The girl child alone cannot operate apart from the boy child. The two work hand in hand. That is why we need to balance the empowerment of the boy child and the girl child. What we are doing is, I don't want to be harsh, but focusing on the boy child alone, on the girl child alone, will not bring out the results that we want to see at the end of the day. So we need to learn how to balance the two parties. How to bring both the boy child and the girl child together on one platform. Because if you empower the girl child and you neglect the boy child, what you are simply doing is you are raising more wicked, more incapable men to lead nations, to continue to inflict pain on the lives of the girl child. They did not create the girls single-handedly to live on planet Earth. There were two parties on Earth. The biggest thing we can do right now is to empower, is to train men to learn how to handle, treat, and deal with their opposite counterpart, the feminine energy. We shouldn't say that because women are going through what they are going through, we should focus on empowering the girl child and leave alone the boy child. Actually, the focus of the entire world should be in the empowerment of the boy child instead of the girl child. If that one fails, and it sounds to be so unjust or unfair, we ought to balance the two. Empower both the boy child and the girl child. But what are you empowering them with? What are you giving them? How are you training them? What are you training them to be? What is the material you are using to train them, to empower them, to equip them? If I read my 28 problems, the social and psychological problems societies have gone through over the years, none of you parents would love any of your child to go through what I listed down. And no change of government can bring an end to the social and psychological problems that our societies are going through. No amount of wealth, no amount of talent, no amount of education can bring the social and psychological problems our societies continue to suffer on a daily basis to an end. Do you know why? Because we are being trained to do something else, not to actually solve the problem. Now I want to tell you one thing. We have only one major solution to the problem, to the problems that we are facing as a society, as a nation, as Africans, or as the African continent, or the globe at large. And this problem, ladies and gentlemen, these problems can only be solved by offering there's only one solution to the problems that we are going through as a nation, as a continent, and as a globe. Now, I'm going to explain to you very carefully that you may not lose me. The problem of our societies has always been there is only one thing that has caused all the problems our societies are going through. And there can only be one solution to the problem, or to the problems. It has been one cause, and that same cause can be the same solution to the problem. It's not what you think. And this is one thing that the entire human race has been avoiding. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution to the problems that we are facing, or the problems we are going through continuously, the hope of a new nation, the hope of a new era, the hope of a new generation does not lie in our wealth, does not lie in the level of social influence that we have. It does not lie in politicians. It does not lie in changes of government. The problems we are facing does not lie in empowering the girl child and neglecting the boy child. The problem we are facing can only be solved by one solution. And this is the solution. We ought to return back to the basic. We ought to return back where it all started. It all started with the plan of one man, a divine being, who said, "Let us create man in our image, in our likeness. Let man be like us." And God created you and I to be like him. That is the solution to our problem. And the reason why I said the opening of church, we thought the opening of churches could be the solutions to the problems that we are going through. And it turned out not to be, because the churches are not doing what they are supposed to do. What are the churches supposed to do? Churches have walked away from the mandate they are supposed to do originally by the author of churches, the author of mankind. Now listen to me very carefully. When you read that portion of the Bible, Matthew chapter 28, from verses 18 to 20. Listen to what Jesus says. The Bible says, "And Jesus walked up to his disciples and said unto them, All authority in heaven and on earth has been given unto me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." We are going to stop there. The others continue. "Baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these disciples to teach them to obey the commands that I've given you." You know, it continues up to now verse 20. But Jesus left a command and said, "Make disciples. Make disciples." I want to explain this very well. Every church that exists ought to make disciples, to develop disciples. A disciple is a follower, is a student. Discipleship is the only way you can make man, you can train man, you can teach man. you can develop humanity into the image. It's the only way you can conform humanity into the image of God the Father. It is the only way you can change human thinking to think like the greatest God ever. All these problems you are seeing, none of the methods we have derived can solve those problems, except when we choose to go back to the basics. Let me give you an example. Today, you are going to find that our churches do not have time to disciple. And discipleship is mentorship. And mentorship is parenting. I hope you get me. That we need to go back to the point where we are going to ask. We have to go back to that level where we have to go back and ask God why we truly exist. Listen to me. When you train your child to act like God, to think like God, to behave like God, to look at God as a role model, to be obsessed with the person of God, such a child will not need to be governed by any law or constitution. Instead, such a person is above the law. Do you know why? Because God is above everything. Such a person, you will not be scared of what is going to happen next with this kind of person. With God, there is no law. When you act and behave like God, you will learn to relate with each other appropriately. You will throw away the demonic culture of tribalism. You will throw away the demonic culture of racism. Domestic violence will cease to exist. Because you are treating everyone like you are supposed to be treated, loved, and cherished. You will cease to hear of things like rape, defilement, single teenage motherhood, suicide, drugs, depression, forced marriages, divorce, and street children will systematically and progressively leave our streets to a better society. We need to create. Sometimes we would say, in the absence of the churches during the lockdown, when the churches were closed, what was the difference that they made in their absence that we will say, without a church, we cannot exist? There is supposed to be a difference between a church and any other institution of learning. The greatest investment you can do or train your children or live with your children, the greatest inheritance is to train your children to become like God. Because when they become like God, everything else will fall into place. Everything else will fall into place. It is after we have known who we are. It is after we have known our identity in God. After we admire this God as the greatest role model, the greatest leader that ever existed, that we shall start to live in peace with each other, in peace with humanity, in peace with society. But apart from that, however much we gather the wealth we need, however much we do the things that we do, we are not going to make it to where we are supposed to make it. However much we change governments, we change leaders, we change politicians on a daily basis, how many have we changed from the time we attained our independence as a nation? We are seeing buildings are coming up. Roads are being tarmacked. But what is the value of these roads, of this development, of these infrastructures, if humanity do not have the peace of mind? If we do not have the peace that we need in our relationship with one another? What is the use of these structures, of these roads, of these infrastructures, if there is still the culture of tribalism, racism, discrimination among the societies we are living in? What is the value of our education if we continue to rape fully educated men and women, so-called professors, taking advantages of the girls who are equivalent to being their daughters, their granddaughters in fact, taking advantage of them sexually? Of what essence is our education? Of what value is modernization? Of what value is civilization? If we continue to struggle with depression, if young people continue to commit suicide because they cannot handle certain situations in life, what is life? What is life if we do not have the peace of mind? If we do not feel we are at freedom, we are at liberty with ourselves, with the government, with the people around us? What is the value? What is the essence of life? The only solution, ladies and gentlemen, the only solution is to return. The only solution is to return back to the basics. We are living a life purposelessly. Everything we are doing without purpose. And the reason why we are doing things without purpose is because we have not sought why we exist from the person who created us. Preaching is a good thing. But we need to go beyond preaching to teaching and making photocopies and identities of the Godhead. Over the years, churches have been preaching. Over the years, churches have been motivating, encouraging, which is a good thing. But we are forgetting the most vital, the most important aspect, use, or purpose of the church. The purpose of the church is to make disciples, is to train men and women who will lead, who will drive this nation with honesty, integrity, above all, with love. You can never love unless you learn that aspect of God, the love aspect of God. Unless you get to know that God is loving and God is love, you will never be in a position to love. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we need to train our children. We need to train our people to become like God. It is very nasty to look at a fellow human being as someone to shape your life after. It doesn't make sense. You're looking at someone who is maybe, let's say, wealthy, but we are forgetting something. When we learn to admire the greatest innovator of all time, the one who brought everything into existence from nothing, literally what you are doing is we are learning from the best. We are becoming the best. We have suffered all these social, these psychological problems, and we continue to suffer from them. We have raised professors, we have raised people who have thought, who have come out with great ideas. But let me tell you something. There is nothing you can do apart from God. He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Whether you are religious or not, you are going to take this fact home, this truth home, that you and I can do nothing. You and I can never transform a thing unless we learn to become like God. Religion has taught us to go to God only to seek for survival, to seek for provision, to seek for protection. We forget to go to Him, seeking to become like Him. Asking Him how He does the things He does. How He's so creative, how He's so innovative. And we focus on the things that He created. The money, the cars, and the rest of the things. And we forget to become like Him in behavior and in character. And that is where the identity of humanity is. And that is where humanity will find true satisfaction and fulfillment. We need to go back to the point where we are discipling and training and grooming and nurturing young people to become not like their forefathers, not like their ancestors, not like their greatest leaders in history in the eyes of humanity, but to become like God Almighty. It's until then that we are going to begin seeing the transformation that we ought to see in the generations now and the generations to come, and the multiple to come in the future. We can transform where we are without necessarily sitting in the August house. Without necessarily contesting. Without necessarily becoming political in nature. It is there that we are going to find the peace that we need. It is there that we are going to find the joy that we need. It is there that we are going to find the fame and the greatness that we are looking for. That education cannot, that fame cannot, that social influence cannot. We need to create that environment. We need to create that platform. We need to return back to the basics. I have looked through, I have seen the things of the world. All the system we have created to try to solve these problems is like King Solomon trying to discover life apart from God, taking advantage of his wisdom to try to test life. But I love his conclusion. Solomon, the greatest leader, the greatest king, maybe what we would say, if we put aside Jesus Christ. Solomon was rich. Solomon was the richest king. But the conclusion of Solomon's life was that fear God and obey all his commandments. For that is why humanity was created. That was his summary. There is only one solution to the problems humanity is facing. We have to return back. We have to return to discipling, to mentoring, to walking, to grooming individuals. It is greater than anything else you can ever think of or even imagine. It is the greatest inheritance a father or mother can leave for his child on earth. Teaching your child the basic principles of life. And the basic principles of life is teaching your child to become like the Godhead. To think and act like God. It's there that you're going to sit above the pressures of life. It's there that you're going to enjoy living. It's there that you're going to enjoy our time on earth. Life is all about God. It started with Him and it will end with Him. Life is nothing without God. And we should not go to God because He is able to provide, He's able to protect, we should go to Him because He created us to be like Him. That is the greatest assignment of human beings. To be like God. To think like God. To act like God. Becoming like God is what we need. It's only there that a sea can depart that people could walk through. What science is there that a man would walk on water? What science is there that a man is able to order a silver coin out of the mouth of the fish in the water? That shows you that he is the man above laws, rules, and constitutions. We need to return. We need to return. We need to return to that point where we are above the law, because we are like God who is above the law. What science is there? What is it in the human mind that men be thrown in a furnace of fire, but none of them is burnt? Not even the slightest heat of fire seems to have touched them. Is it possible that after 4 days in the grave, another man raises up and walks like he had never died before? We need that person. We need to become that person. And if there is anyone you admire in this world, let it be the man Christ. We are going to continue from here in our next series to come. I really want to thank you so much for keeping it today on the light. I thank you for always watching the light. And I request you to like our Facebook page, DF.TV. You can send me also a friend request on Facebook. Directly to the name you see on the screen. Let's interact. We are building an empire. We are building a generation that looks at God as the highest standard of good. I thank you so much and hope to hear from you again and see you tomorrow. Comment, like, and share. See you tomorrow. God bless you.